Hey guys, what's up? It's Britt Lyons. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how I edit my Instagram photos. I know the last time I did an Instagram type video, I promised you guys that I would show you how I edit them because a lot of you guys asked for that. I know there's been a lot of talk lately about the dangers of editing, and I definitely agree that editing programs like Facetune and Lightroom can definitely be dangerous, especially if you have a history of like body dysmorphia. In my opinion, photo editing can be really dangerous when influencers or celebrities are lying about using editing software for their photos, especially on social media. I think most people nowadays do use a retouching software of some sort, whether that be even like a filter on Instagram or Facetune or Lightroom, PicMonkey, etc. Regardless of what it is, I think most people do use them. And I also think that if someone has a high amount of followers on a platform and is saying that they don't use any kind of retouching programs, but it's kind of obvious that they do, I think that that's really wrong. With that being said, I'm gonna be completely transparent here. I do edit my photos, and in my opinion, I guess I spend a lot of time editing my photos, mostly because I genuinely enjoy the editing process. For me, it's an ability for me to be creative, from modeling for the photos and taking them to actually bringing them to life in an editing program and really saturating the colors. For me, that is my art. I really do love to edit photos. It's one of my favorite hobbies. It's one of my favorite things to do. Spending a lot of time editing your photos doesn't necessarily mean that you're changing a lot of things about your actual body or your actual face. And I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with that, as long as you're not completely misconstruing like parts of your body or parts of your face to the point that you're completely unrecognizable. If you saw me around, I'd want you to be able to come up to me and say, "Hi, I follow you on Instagram," or "Hi, I follow you on YouTube," and know who I am. But if I was unrecognizable in person, that almost kind of defeats the entire purpose of editing photos, in my opinion, because you'd want to be your best self, not a different person. And we all know that Instagram and social media are our highlight reels. Social media is almost always a first impression for someone, and no one wants to make their lives look boring or wants to give a bad first impression. So we feel obligated to make our social media profiles look as perfect as possible, and that's understandable. Before I show you guys exactly how I edit, I just want to stress I am not encouraging you to edit how I do. This is how I edit my Instagram photos. That doesn't mean you have to edit like me, and I encourage you before downloading an editing software, if you haven't already, to ask yourself if you truly love yourself before making actual changes. I do have insecurities. I think everyone has insecurities. For me, it's the texture of my skin. I have a lot of skin texture. Obviously, you can't tell. I am using a ring light, and I like to smooth that out in my photos. Do I think that that's bad? I mean, I think it can be, but it's also something that I'm trying to fix like in real life. I guess that's going to be up for speculation on if that's wrong or not, but I think by coming on here and telling you guys that yes, I smooth my skin, I think that that's my transparency right there, and that's what I want to really stress to you guys. You do not have to use an editing software to make yourself beautiful. You are beautiful the way you are. I am beautiful the way I am, texture and all. Just keep that in mind. With that being said, I'm gonna show you guys how I edit my Instagram photos, and I think you actually might be surprised by how little that I actually do. So let's get on into the editing process. I do want to talk about the fact too that I am actually naturally pretty small. I do take after my dad. I'm more like muscly, which can look a little bit broader and thicker on a girl depending, especially because I'm so short. I will say, however, sometimes I do fix my arms or my shoulders because they make me really insecure with how broad I feel like I mean, you guys probably won't be able to tell, and I shouldn't be pointing it out, but I feel like they're pretty broad for a girl, so I like to sometimes make them appear smaller in photos. Not very often, because usually that only happens when I'm wearing like a tube top and my hair up. My husband hasn't noticed it, so I think we're in the clear. First things first, I actually use two different editing programs. I use PicMonkey first to do like really basic stuff because the controls in PicMonkey are very user-friendly. So I like to go into PicMonkey first and make kind of like small edits first, and then I like to open all of my photos that I've edited in PicMonkey into Lightroom. And then that's where I'll make preset adjustments, color changes, things like that. So this one is gonna probably have a little bit more editing in it. I'm going to auto adjust here. I'm gonna rotate this just a bit because Ready Coffee in the back here is not as straight as I would like, so we're gonna straighten that out. We're going to do a little bit of airbrushing again. I don't really have a ton of texture, but I like to do this anyway. I'm gonna make the brush size a little bit smaller. What this also does that I've noticed is it kind of adds a little bit more definition into the skin as well, almost like you're kind of contouring a bit. And I'm also going to whiten my teeth because we see how yellow they are here. No tea, no shade, but it's true. I do try to whiten my teeth at home with the strips, but it's actually bad for your enamel, so it's hard. The struggle is real, right? Because I like coffee, but coffee doesn't like my teeth. So I'm also going to crop this just a bit, like maybe to there. And you can always adjust the crop again in Instagram. That's usually how I do it. I know other people like to change the aspect ratio in their editing software. I'm not really a fan of that. So for this, I'm going to show you guys how to make grass look greener and the sky look bluer. This looks crazy right now, but I'm really going to get the spots here that are more brown than. Sometimes what I actually do is I just kind of go crazy around myself, and then I'll actually like use the erase tool and get rid of that pigment, just because I find that this helps me get as close as possible to where I need to be to make the grass look as green as possible, but then I can also clean it up with the erase tool. That is what it looks like. Kind of looks like a green screen right now. It looks so fake, but we're gonna fix that with the fade tool. It's my favorite tool. You're gonna drag it up really high. I usually drag it to like 60 because I feel like that's still really green, but it's not like overkill green. We're gonna do the same thing to the sky. The sky's a little bit easier because it's more like square, I guess. So now we're gonna actually clean up where we don't want blue. So we obviously want the Ready Coffee sign to stand out really nice. I should be wearing my blue light glasses. Alright, so now, see how fake that looks? We're gonna fade that again. And we're gonna fade it almost to like, look like we barely did anything. We're gonna do like 60. I don't really think there's anything else I'd do. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit export. Now we got this shot of Alyssa and I. We're gonna straighten out the horizon just a little bit, and then we're gonna hit exposure, let that do its thing. There's not really much that needed to be done here. And honestly, I wouldn't even airbrush this because it really just, it looks great. So we're gonna just save this as it is. For this one is actually very crooked, so I'm going to straighten that out a lot, make that horizon really nice. And we're gonna hit exposure, let that happen. The sky really doesn't need to be changed here at all, so I'm actually going to just airbrush my legs in this because I forgot to shave. So we're going to do that, and then we are just going to do a little tiny bit of airbrushing, nothing crazy. And then you really can't see my teeth from here, but I am going to just whiten them just for the sake of doing it. So we got one more here. I'm going to hit exposure on this one, see if that does anything. It didn't really. But for this one, I am going to do a little bit of airbrushing just because the sun is so bright in this photo, and I want to make sure that everything looks nice. I'm going to whiten my teeth again because, you know, we love coffee. We're pretty much done with the Pick Monkey part, so we're gonna go into Lightroom now. While this is loading, I'm gonna talk about presets. So I do use presets. I feel like they're the easiest way to edit in Lightroom. With that being said, I think that it's important to kind of have a basic knowledge of the program that you're using, but for me, the knowledge of the program that I'm using really did come from just playing around with it, honestly, and watching YouTube videos. So the presets that I really like a lot are Alison Bickerstaff's presets. If you guys don't know who she is, I'll link her down below. She's kind of like a Disney Instagrammer, I guess. Like a lot of her content is very like light and happy, colorful, which is kind of right up my alley. So I actually bought her presets like 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? A year and a half, maybe. And they weren't expensive at all. I really like them a lot. So if you hover over the preset, you can kind of see the preview in this little area. You can see it goes back to normal, but then if you hover over a preset, it'll show you what it'll look like. I've been liking this one called Lightspeed a lot by Alison. I turn down highlights a lot usually, and then I turn up my darks and I turn up my shadows. I always adjust my skin tone. There's a whole section here where you have all of your colors that are in a photo typically. Orange is really what usually affects skin tone. It doesn't matter what color your skin is, that's typically what you would adjust. That, and I think like red, because sometimes I notice like peach tones coming out in my skin as well. There's a lot of videos out there on how to adjust specific color in Lightroom, so I recommend checking those out because I'm not an expert. I'm just showing you what I do. I always bring up my luminance in my orange, and I always like desaturate it. And then to bring back in some like life into the photo, I like to bring down the luminance and bring up the saturation of the yellow. And then what I also like to do to make the sky look more like an aqua is I like to turn my blue down to more aqua, like right a little bit lower there. And then I like to turn my aqua up, raise my saturation a bit on both of those, and then also drag down my luminance, because that makes it more, to me, it makes it stand out more and makes it prettier. I always have pink in my photos usually, especially because of my hair. So I always bring down my magenta just a bit, and I make it like more on the pink side rather than the red side, and bring up the saturation. And then that is all I'll do. Then I'll hit export. We should really be going in order here. I'm actually going to select the preset Mermaid Touch. So we're going to bring down our highlights again. This one's kind of a weird shot because we're in the middle of a busy road. So I'm actually going to darken this because that should darken the windows behind me. So I'll bring down my orange because I feel like my skin looks weird in this one. And I'll bring up the luminance a bit. I'll deepen the grass a tad. And I'll make this more on the green side. Same thing with the sky. We're gonna kind of bring down the luminance. We're gonna desaturate this a bit because I think the blue is actually very blue for my liking. I'm just gonna bring that down a little, but I want it to still have that like aqua-y kind of vibe. So I think that that's good. I think the sky looks realistic here because we don't want to make anything look fake. This next one is the one of Alyssa and I. I am absolutely obsessed with this one. So we're going to use light speed again from Allison Bickerstaff. So I'm going to adjust that to like a 20 exposure. I'm going to bring down my highlights again, bring down my lights, and then I'm going to up my darks. The orange is actually pretty good, so I'm going to actually leave it where it is. We're going to bring yellow back a bit. We're gonna make the sky stand out a little bit more. I really love this photo. I think it's really beautiful, so I don't think that there's a lot that needs to be done in my opinion. So we're gonna leave it how it is, and I'm gonna hit export. The last photo is this one of me on the rock in the same exact location, but just not with Alyssa in this one. So actually I think I kind of want to use Mermaid Touch on this one too. We're going to bring back the luminance of the sky because it just looks really pretty if it's like super deep. I'm going to adjust my skin tone just a teeny tiny bit, bring the highlights and lights down and the darks and the shadows up. That is it. That's how I edit my Instagram photos. So that's how I edit my Instagram photos. If you guys enjoy how I edit, give me a thumbs up. Also make sure to follow my Instagram because you'll see that I have a lot of similarly edited photos, obviously because it has to have a nice flow. I'm very obsessive about that, honestly. Also, if you do really enjoy the way that I edit, I do extend photo editing services. I am not by any means a professional. I did not go to school for photo editing and retouching. I can't do anything insane. All I can pretty much do is what I showed you guys, which is pretty much just the basics, I guess. And I do charge a rate of $1 per photo via PayPal with the ability of like bundles if you do like more photos, things like that. I'll leave all that information down in the description if you are interested. Let me know in the comments down below what you love the most about yourself. I think it's important to practice self-love before you start trying to edit your photos and make yourself look a certain way. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed, definitely give it a thumbs up and also hit subscribe to become a member of the Lyons Den because I would love to have you. All of my social media is going to be listed down below, so make sure to check it out and follow it so you can hang out with me in between uploads, especially my Instagram. And I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!